everyone, it's Julie at Polynesian Plumeria. I just remembered when I was out in this is just one of the Plumeria gardens. We have, I guess if you counted them all, there's probably five, I could argue 6 different gardens. This is just the first one. We call it PG1. And my husband's out helping me today, and because this is a joint venture. And one of the things we're working on is getting them back to being alphabetized. And also we're working on spreading them out more to give them more airflow, because we are starting to get a little bit of rain. We're a little bit late with our rains, but we had a big storm last night, which I'm sure they all love that natural drink of water because it's always better for them. So while we were out here, I remembered something, because my husband, as he's shifting and looking around at the plants, he's grabbing the ones that have been falling over a lot. When we get these wind storms, they've been falling over, which is a lot of times an indicator that they are root bound and they need to be up potted, because they're just full of roots and there's not a lot of soil to weight them down and anchor them, or they've grown so tall that they're just they're falling over because they're top heavy. So while we were out here doing this, I said, you know something, I've got to tell the followers about worm castings. I've never mentioned worm castings to you, because when we were up potting the seedlings last weekend and did a video, we forgot to put them in the pots. So we have to go back and backtrack now. So you're probably thinking, what are you talking about worm castings? Well, worm castings is a nice way of saying worm poop, because they're casting off their waste and it just sounds nicer, right? So worm castings are really worm poop. And I've been using them in my garden for, me and my mother and my grandfather have been using them since I learned from them like 51 years ago. I've been gardening since I was 9 years old here in Florida, in exactly this area where I'm at now in Central Florida on the West Coast. And I've learned a lot from my grandfather and my mother. And one of the things they taught me is to use worm castings. But back in the day, we didn't have these companies that were selling worm poop. Instead, we went and got our own earthworms and we incorporated them into the soil. And mostly I'm talking about like vegetable gardening. So it's always been a very successful result when we've used them in vegetable gardens. And like I said, I've been doing it for 5 decades. So one day, this was about 4 years ago when we first moved to this property, and I started having an infestation of spider mites and whiteflies on my viburnum hedges, which is an ornamental shrub that we grow here in this part of Florida, or probably all of Florida because it's really cold hardy. And I had a landscape company come out that sprays for pests and things, and they couldn't get them under control. It was like they sprayed and sprayed. They tried all these different products, nothing was working. And finally one day I said, you know what, I'm gonna try worm castings. So I went out and put some worm castings on both those sets of hedges, which were very long rows of hedges, and it didn't take long at all before the whiteflies and the spider mite issue was completely eradicated. So every year now in the spring, when everything's waking up and starting to grow, I always make sure to put a layer of worm castings. And a little does a lot. You don't need a lot. Especially if you look on this bag, that's one of the things they say, a little does a lot. So I buy this one, it's called Wiggle Worm, worm castings, and it's very inexpensive. I found it on Amazon, of course. It's linked in my Amazon storefront, so to make it easier for you guys that might want to know exactly what I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about this because I'm getting any kickbacks from it. My little store that Amazon and Facebook invited me to create to make things easier for my followers, and also to prevent me from having to spend hours answering each individual person and looking, or maybe even missing their questions. I think they give me like 2% on each item. So it's like I get 20 cents for every $10. This is not a money maker for me. It does not fund my lifestyle. I'm not going to get rich quick on this, and I could not set it up without that parameter in place. So this is not me promoting products that I don't use. I've been using this for 51 years. Not this exact product, but real live worm poop from real live worms. So let's talk about something else. I don't want you to think that there's research out there, like scientific research, that says that worm castings prevent pest outbreaks, because there's not. If you talk to Google or ChatGPT, you'll find out there is a little bit of a controversy online about it. And I'm not talking about the controversy because I'm only basing this on my personal experience and what has worked for me. And remember, I always tell you, whatever works best for you, that's what you should do. So even though there's not specific scientific research that shows worm castings directly repel these pests, it has been proven that they help to make your plants healthier, okay? So beneficial microbes, which are in worm poop, and our poop too, contributes to your plants being healthier. And healthier plants will have better root systems. And having a better root system helps your plant with stress. So it can help with a heat issue, a drought issue, a transplant shock issue, and to resist some pests. However, even though I said all of that about there's no specific like scientific studies saying for sure this happens, there are some other studies that suggest that worm castings can induce a natural pest defense response, which is different from saying they actually repel them, okay? I know it's the wording, it's semantics, but that's what the research or the studies online say. So results can vary, as usual, depending on your climate, your growing conditions, and any pest pressure that you're experiencing. I always, this is my last Teresa Wilder bloom, by the way. I always want to make sure that I preface anything that I talk about by saying this is what works best for me. So let me know in the comments what works best for you. If you've tried it before, if you haven't tried it before. We've got to get busy now though, because we've got a bunch of seedlings we got to go backtrack and add some to. And we do always include, we don't mix it into the soil mix. I know that's going to be a question I get. In that little cement mixer that we use, we don't add it in because I don't want the ratio to be off in case it doesn't get mixed in well enough, and because only a little bit is needed, we actually just top off the pot with it. We just throw it in the top of the pot, and we've had excellent results from it. So I hope this helps you. I hope this is something you might incorporate into your growing routine if you think it fits well with your climate. And if so, like I said, let me know in the comments. I love hearing your experience with some of the things that I'm doing. So as always, if you're not following me, you can follow me and subscribe on Polynesian Plumeria Facebook page. You can follow me on Instagram, and also like and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And the reason why is because I give a lot of good tips, and more tips equals more blooms. Have a great day, everybody. I hope you're getting out in your Plumeria garden today and enjoying it.